everyone, this is Callimara here. And no, it's not calamari. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new to the pond, go ahead and take a dive. You might like it here. If this is your first time watching my videos, I've been doing a series redesigning and rewriting characters from the show Miraculous Ladybug. Now, I have a very complicated love-hate relationship with this show, where on one hand, I love the premise and the potential it had because I am a sucker for animal-themed magical girls, and on the other hand, I hate its writing and uncanny character design choices. You know, when most people have given up hope on your main relationship because you overused and baited it so many times as the story's A-plot without it going anywhere, it's probably a bad thing. And it's an even worse idea to finally get the ball rolling after most of your audience have stopped caring. I've basically stopped watching MLB after season 3 because I could physically feel myself losing brain cells with each episode, and I don't think I could survive the cringe of season 4 suddenly turning the show into a musical. Because there wasn't a precedent and the characters have literally never done that before, canonically, they're just randomly breaking into song and dance for no reason. I'm sorry, but I saw that TikTok and now you do too. Sharing is caring. And that's just one of my biggest pet peeves about MLB. They say the characters are one thing, but then have them act a completely different way. They tell us that Marinette is a great person who is supposed to be liked by everyone, and yet she acts just as mean and petty as Chloe, the creator's mortal enemy, by the way, when it comes to getting something she wants. They tell us Gabriel is this cool, intelligent, refined character, and then make him do this. But among the slog of inconsistent characters behaving however the writers need them to, there is one character who has always remained consistent in her behavior and standpoint, and that character is Kagami Tsurugi, aka the best character in MLB, and my personal favorite character in the show. Listen, I'm the type of person who always roots for the main ship. If I see male lead and female lead having romantic chemistry and are clearly set up to be endgame, I'm rooting for them. So yes, I did ship Starco during the dumpster fire of Star vs. the Force's evil shipping wars. And yes, I am also a basic bitch shipper of Kirito and Asuna in Sword Art Online. And if you follow me on any of my social media, Callimara on Twitter and callimara.art on Instagram, you would know that I am obsessed with Link and Zelda. No, not just in Breath of the Wild, but in all of the Zelda games. It takes a lot for me to not ship the main ship. You really have to try very hard for me to not be on board with it or make a lot of mistakes to the point where I'm like, yeah, no, this is not it. And here we are with Miraculous Ladybug, where I'm actually supporting the rival love interest more than the endgame ship. So let's talk about why Kagami is one of the few characters that the show got right, and how I would utilize Kagami's character if I was a writer on the show, as well as how I would style her if I were a designer on the show. I also want to thank you guys so much for 90k on my channel. I'm really, really excited that this is actually happening. We are almost at 100k, which I didn't think would ever happen. And I know, like, in terms of channel sizes nowadays, 100k isn't really that big a deal, but it is a big deal for me. So I want to thank you guys so much for following along in my journey, and well, I hope you're still here if I eventually reach that milestone as well. Design-wise, I think Kagami has some of the better civilian designs in the show, at least in terms of color palette. Her outfit feels very generic and doesn't really reflect her personality very well. When I first saw it, I actually thought it was a uniform for a different school, and school uniforms aren't exactly known for permitting individuality. So it was pretty surprising to see that she was still wearing that same outfit even after moving to Francois DuPont College, even though they don't really have uniforms at that school. I do love her short bobbed hair, but I have a problem with how blunt it is. It almost looks like she's wearing a helmet. But the worst aspect of her hair, in my opinion, are her fringes. It looks very awkwardly shaped, and it's very heavy and dense for her small face, causing it to engulf her entire features, which is a shame because Kagami has gorgeous eyes that I'd really like to see better. I think Kagami could have really benefited from her fringes being a bit sparser and, I guess, combed over a bit better. It just kind of looks like she has this really long strand that she purposefully pulled across her face, and it makes it look really awkward in my opinion. So my goal with her civilian redesign is to give her clothes that better showcase her personality and a more flattering hairstyle. As for Ryuko, I really do love her suit. I think it's super sleek and flattering, and Kagami looks freaking awesome in it. But I still can't help but think it's eerily similar to Ladybug. I think it's mostly the color scheme and the fact that both are just plain red spandex suits, but it genuinely makes no sense why they had to look so similar. There's a lot of criticism of Ryuko and Long being red dragons when the Miraculous's power is about weather, and I completely understand where it's coming from. Based on my personal knowledge, red dragons in Chinese mythology are more associated with prosperity and good fortune, so it would have made more sense for the Dragon Miraculous to have luck powers. Except that power is already being used by the Ladybug Miraculous, and we can't have that. So what other stuff do Chinese dragons do? Oh, they kinda control the weather. That works. But they still kept the color the same? Because in Chinese mythology, once again, azure dragons are the ones associated with weather, winds, and rain, the primary powers of the Dragon Miraculous. So really, Long and Ryuko should predominantly be blue, which would have also differentiated the Dragon Miraculous further from the Ladybug Miraculous. And yet, they didn't do that. So I can't help but speculate on the reasoning behind it. Were they trying to draw parallels between Marinette and Kagami? Were they hoping the audience would compare and contrast the two? Or are they simply telling us that Kagami is just a knockoff Marinette, but that Marinette will always be superior to Kagami? Except they ended up just creating a better character than Marinette. Though that's not really difficult to do, let's be honest. And these colors do end up becoming a dilemma for me later down the line when I start coloring, because with the original color scheme, I quickly noticed how identical Ladybug and Ryuko's colors are, especially so in my Ladybug redesign. But you'll see that soon enough. So here is how I would redesign Kagami in her civilian form. I wanted her to look like the baddie that she is on the inside, but on the outside. And because she is deeply connected to her Japanese heritage, I decided to turn to Japanese street fashion and was so pleased because those outfits are exactly what I envisioned for Kagami. Japanese street fashion at the moment is predominantly techwear, which is perfect for Kagami because in my opinion, there really is no style that's more badass than techwear. I chose this particular ensemble as inspiration and got to work. There's a particular half jumper that I see K-idols wear a lot, and I always think it looks super cool, so that's what I also did for Kagami. And of course, I gave her combat boots for maximum ass kicking. Overall, I think the clothes suit her active lifestyle and ensure that she would be able to move around easily. For her hair, Kagami doesn't really have the volume problem that most Miraculous characters have, but as I've mentioned before, it is very dense without much structure. And don't get me wrong, I love her hairstyle and actually used to have a similar haircut when I was in middle school. But at the moment, it's looking more like a helmet than hair, so we're gonna help her out with that. Naturally, I wanted to keep that length, but style it a bit differently. I went for a short shaved back with longer ends towards the top of the head and the front. My main inspirations for this cut are Lucy from Cyberpunk Edge Runners and Motoko from Ghost in the Shell. I think it looks chic while still being practical, so it was perfect for Kagami. As for Ryuko, I knew that I wanted to do a spin on samurai armor for her suit because Kagami's family is a descendant of samurai. Recently, I learned about female samurais called onamusha, who were some of the most powerful and skilled warriors in Japanese history. One of the examples being Tomoe Gozen, who commanded 300 samurai against 2,000 warriors of the rival Taira clan during the war in 1182 Japan, and won. Fun fact, Kagami's mother is also named Tomoe, and I think that is a reference to Tomoe Gozen, so that made it all the more obvious for Ryuko to have samurai armor. Plus, it would go perfectly with Ryuko's sword weapon, which I wanted to keep in this redesign, even though I forgot to include it. I looked up some references of Onamusha in their armor and decided for a bit of extra flair to add dragon scales on the armor. Recently, I've been feeling really frustrated with my art. I feel like I'm stagnating somewhere I don't want to be, and I'm really focused on getting somewhere I do want to be. I don't know if it's my imposter syndrome or perfectionism, but every time I look at past drawings that I've done, I can't help but feel dissatisfaction, like I'm not good enough. I find myself comparing my art to artists who I think are incredible a lot lately, and I think that's what has really motivated me to push out of my comfort zone. One of the things about my art I was dissatisfied with was my composition. I noticed that a lot of my illustrations have a lot of empty space and just look uninteresting to look at despite the amount of detail or effort I put into it. I really want to make my pieces more visually appealing, even if it's just a character design concept, so I'm trying my best to fill out space here without making it too busy. I also decided to try something new with my line art, which is another aspect of my drawings that I've always felt was the weakest, and the part I'm least satisfied with. Normally, I work on my lines using vector layers that allow you to adjust the lines afterwards or even change the thickness of it. My lines are very sterile, very simple, like something you would see for an animated show that needs easily replicated line art, which is great in animation. When the characters are moving and the story is told through multiple frames and shots. In an illustration, you kind of expect a higher level of detail and personal touches because you need to entrance someone in one still drawing. I want my lines to have more personality and contribute to the feel of the drawing rather than just being boundaries for my colors to go into. So for this drawing, I really experimented with different brushes and techniques to see what I could do differently to get the look that I want. This time, I decided to work on a normal layer rather than a vector layer, and I went back to my old reliable Razuro's highlight pen and tried to dial back on my use of the undo button in favor of the eraser tool. I quickly noticed my old habits that were causing my dissatisfaction with my lines, and that was the fact that I only take one single stroke without going back over to complete it. It's just a bunch of lines that almost feel arbitrary. So this time, I took extra care in going over the lines I made with multiple strokes until I'm happy with the shape and feel. And I'm actually very pleased with how this drawing turned out, and it's really given me my confidence and excitement to draw back. Though one other thing I struggled with for this particular design were definitely Ryuko's colors. Originally, I tried following the red, black, and gold color scheme she originally had, but as I've mentioned before, it looked extremely similar to Ladybug's suit, especially in my redesign. I tried mitigating it with a predominantly black design, but it still looked too similar to Ladybug for my liking. I eventually took a hard turn and completely changed the colors to blue and white to be more in line with Azure Dragons. But that one ended up looking too similar to Bunnix's color scheme. I was genuinely stuck at this point and both options felt like a lose-lose. So I took to my Discord. Yes, I do have a Discord. Please join my server. The link is in the description. And asked my server members which option they liked better. They suggested I mix the two options by going with a blue and black palette instead of blue and white, and I really liked how it ended up looking, so that was the option I went with. For Ryuko's hair, I wanted to change it just slightly. I did a swoopy, gravity-defying Dragon Ball type hair to make it look like she's radiating with power and to make it more reminiscent of Chinese dragon manes. To do that, I took inspiration from another Ryuko from Kill la Kill. And because I forgot to include her sword, it's basically the same sword but blue. Another thing I changed while working on this redesign was my shading brush. Usually, I'm very concerned about my blending being smooth and clean, but this time, while using a more textured brush with coarser blending, I realized that it looked so much more appealing. I'm really getting into including more varied textures in my drawings, and I'm excited to develop it further. And that's it for Kagami's redesign. Let me know what you think of her new design in the comments below. Like most people who watch MLB, we first meet Kagami in the episode Riposte, and the moment she appeared on screen in that red fencing suit, kicked Adrian's ass, and I mean she ate that boy up, and only lost because Marinette is a simp and a kiss ass, and said that Adrian got the point instead, when Kagami clearly hit him first. I was sold. She was so cool and I knew right away that I liked this character. And you know what? It's because of Marinette's lie that Kagami became akumatized, and she doesn't even apologize for what she did. Adrian was the one who had to go and console her. Marinette just got away with it. Yeah, don't think I forgot. But anyway, ever since that episode, Kagami was officially my favorite character in Miraculous. She's assertive, she knows what she wants, and she isn't afraid to take it. She did what Marinette couldn't do for all of 4, maybe 5 seasons and bag Adrian as her man. And I do mean that literally. Kagami is super assertive and she isn't afraid to tell people what she wants. And at the time, that was Adrian. And you gotta admit, the girl has game. She's leagues ahead of Marinette despite being raised with such strict rules and much less freedom. What a girl boss. And in her relationship with Adrian, considering her upbringing and lack of interpersonal relationships, she does do her best to make it work. It wasn't her fault Adrian was leading her on because he can't be honest with his feelings and pretty much treats her like a ladybug substitute, because Kagami was clearly a distraction. I feel like her relationship with Adrian had so much potential to be good if they just let Adrian focus on her for a second. Kagami sets up the best interactions. She's cool, witty, playful, and I'd argue it's better than what Adrianette could ever be. Kagami and Adrian have a lot of chemistry and come from very similar backgrounds. Both come from wealthy families with formidable histories. Adrian was destined to become a socialite like his parents, and Kagami is a samurai descendant. They both have emotionally uninvolved single parents with incredibly high standards and expectations of them, and they both struggle a lot mentally as a result. They both feel like they're never enough, no matter how much they try. Honestly, I'd rather watch a show about Kagami. It's actually crazy how much they parallel each other. And I am strongly convinced that the only reason the show never revealed these backstories to the characters, or why they kept shoving Ladybug in Adrian's face every time he wants to be with Kagami, is because Kagami and Adrian would have genuinely become an unbreakable couple. After all, of all the characters in the show, they would be the only ones truly capable of understanding each other completely. From their mental struggles, their hurt and trauma and loneliness, all the way to what it's like to be in that situation. And because of that, I genuinely think they could be a source of healing for each other too. They already worked well as a couple when they were together, but with that reveal, I think it would create a stronger sense of fondness and understanding that Marinette could never hope to compete with. Because Marinette will never be Kagami, and she will never have the experiences that Kagami had that should have brought her closer to Adrian in a way Marinette can never be. But you know what? Kagami is too good for Adrian anyway. Aside from the shipping aspect, Kagami is a very strong character on her own. She's thoughtful, fierce, dedicated, a perfectionist, a good sport, and multi-talented. Kagami is a badass in and out of the supersuit. And on top of that, she's actually a great friend and treasures her friendships deeply. She's just a genuinely good person. She's not perfect, of course. She has her temper, stubbornness, aggression, and competitive nature that causes her to jump to conclusions, but I think these flaws make sense in context to her personality and history. Kind of like Chloe. Though unlike Chloe, Kagami has the luxury of being consistently written and spared from character sabotage. And really, the only major mistake Kagami makes in the entire show is being romantically involved with Adrian and is led on as a result. And you know what? The longer I've been doing these character rewrites for Miraculous, the more I want Miraculous and Adrian to not end up as a couple. Romantically, I think they have way more natural chemistry and harmony with their alternative ships than each other. I think Marinette/Ladybug and Adrian/Cat Noir work better as friends and work partners. So here's how I would rewrite the show with that idea in mind. In my last makeover video, I talked about Luca and how I would rewrite his and Marinette's romance. I'm going to be doing the same for Kagami, as well as finally completing the storyline I'd been writing for these rewrites. So to start things off, there are some changes from canon from previous videos that need to be taken into account for this rewrite, which I'm going to recap because it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. The first is that Cat Noir does not have romantic interest in Ladybug because he is more focused on finding the whereabouts of his missing mother, and his Cat Noir identity gives him an escape from the life he lives. Plus, he's super sheltered for all of 13 to 14 years of his life, so he really isn't thinking about girls that much right now. The second is that Marinette does not have a genuine crush on Adrian either. She only pretends to be interested in him to fit in better with her friends. Adrian is also a lot more socially awkward than he is in the show in my rewrite, and he's very bad at interacting with people his own age, which serves as silly shenanigans sometimes. Try saying that 10 times fast. The third is that Ladybug and Cat Noir's relationship is more of a partnership than Ladybug simply telling Cat Noir what to do. Ladybug is very organized and well prepared, whereas Cat Noir is spontaneous and unpredictable. And they use their differences to their advantage. Only Cat Noir can break an item possessed by an Akuma, and only Ladybug can purify it. Both need to be present in order to use their damage reversal power. The fourth is that sentimonsters no longer exist because after Master Fu created Feast, Dusu was incredibly traumatized by the havoc it wreaked, which resulted in their miraculous power changing. So I don't want to see any comments saying, "Oh, Adrian is actually a sentimonster," or "Oh, Felix is actually a sentimonster," or "Kagami is actually a sentimonster." So don't bother. I'm the captain now. The fifth is that Felix and Lila are both on Hawkmoth's side, serving as his henchmen along with Mayura. Like in the show, Felix successfully manages to steal the miracle box from Ladybug, severely reducing the number of allies Ladybug has, Kagami being one of them. If you have been watching my videos, you know that Marinette has been having a rough time in my story lately, but what's been going on with Adrien? Well, let's talk about that. To refresh you on my storyline, after a ruse pulled by Lila to break the bond of trust between Cat Noir and Ladybug, Cat Noir, severely injured, was taken to the atelier of his home, where Hawkmoth reveals his true identity and shows him just what really happened to his mother. This convinces Cat Noir to join his father's side, but only if he gets to make the wish. Because of this, Lila learns of Cat Noir's true identity and decides to betray Hawkmoth after seeing the lengths he was willing to go to get what he wanted. Lila joins Ladybug's side, snatching the Fox Miraculous from Hawkmoth to prove her trustworthiness to the heroes and assisting in their ambush. But Adrien, well, he's caught on the opposite end of this tug-of-war. He now has to go up against his partner in arms. Although deep down he had a feeling that the attack hadn't really been her, because he knew how she fought and her strategies. What mattered now was getting his mother back, and hopefully getting his father back too. Adrien is torn up and conflicted even more than usual. He's become withdrawn and quiet at school, especially after he took the fall for Felix. He kept quiet and bore everything alone, like he always did. Although Marinette would have figured out that the person she had given the dog Miraculous to was not Adrien, she's also hesitant on rekindling their friendship at the risk of giving away her secret identity. And that's where Kagami comes in. As I've mentioned before, Kagami is the only person who even has a remote chance of understanding him, and she understands him completely. She's the only person to not question his quiet withdrawal or listlessness. She never questioned his obedience and resentment to his father, or how difficult it was to make friends, because she understood. And because she understood, she was also the best person to be his friend. Adrien was never good with words, but he never needed words for Kagami to understand what he was going through. She simply knew, and he never felt like he needed to change himself to be friends with her. She helped him forget about his troubles. She takes him on various excursions and detours in their busy schedules, encouraging him to let loose and indulge in his more playful side. They talk about their home lives and overbearing parents and how they wish they could speak freely to them. I imagine a scene where Kagami and Adrien are together on a rooftop excursion, and they both scream out the things they were never able to say to their parents into the void. And in that way, they helped each other heal from their wounds. Two kids forced to live a life their parents wanted them to live and be someone their parents wanted them to be, finally finding their own voice. With her, he finally managed to bring the freedom he found as Cat Noir to his real life too. And for her, she finally realized that her mother's way was not the right way that she thought it was. She was his best friend, and the true miracle he was looking for. In the show, there is an arc where Marinette tries to get Kagami and Adrien back together again after they'd broken up, and I'd like to reuse that in my rewrite here, where although Marinette has gotten to know Adrien a lot better, and that she does like him, she realizes that she really only likes him as a friend, and she's tired of pretending that she likes him more than that just to fit in. And with Kagami in the picture, she uses that as an opportunity to mend the strain between her and Adrien, relinquishing the person she was pretending to be and giving them her support. And seeing Kagami and Adrien together only reminded her of her relationship with Luca. And I think because Adrien and Kagami are so close in this version, Adrien would tell her his true identity as Cat Noir and the predicament he was in. Being the blunt and no-nonsense person that she is, Kagami tells Adrien that what Gabriel was doing was wrong, What he was doing was refusing to let go of his anger and loss, just like the two of them were doing. And if they hadn't let go of their anger, then they might have ended up like Gabriel too. Because wanting to go back to the past will stop you from finding your future. All you can do is take the past as a valuable lesson and learn from it. Kagami tells him that they don't have to be what their parents want them to be. They don't have to follow in their footsteps, and they can be their own people. And although she no longer has access to her powers, she encourages him to do the right thing, even if it's hard. Adrian tells her that he'll think about it, but that it would put his mind at ease if she was safe. So he plans to steal the Dragon Miraculous back for her, so she can protect herself better if she needs it. But little does he know that he's being watched by Mayura, who overhears this conversation and finds some truth in Kagami's words as well, wavering her resolve. And so she decides to keep quiet about Adrian's plans. Adrian manages to successfully steal the Dragon Miraculous from the miracle box in Gabriel's possession. He gives it to Kagami and tells her to leave Paris, while he returns to Hawkmoth's side to avoid suspicion. As Kagami is on her way to leave Paris, she catches sight of the battle between Ladybug and Mayura, and despite her own safety, she decides to aid Ladybug. Although Ladybug is surprised to see her, she gratefully accepts her help. The two of them prove too much for Mayura, so Ryuko tells Ladybug that she can handle it from here, and that she needs to go find Hawkmoth as soon as she can. With no time for questions, Ladybug rushes off, leaving Mayura with Ryuko. In their battle, Ryuko appeals to Mayura's affection for Adrian, demanding answers as to why she was working for a man who would hurt his own son and play with his life as if he were simply a pawn. If she had any conscience, then why would she continue this foolishness just to please someone who will never be pleased with them? And in a way, venting her own frustrations about her mother to Mayura, and it hits far too close to home for Mayura. Ryuko successfully defeats her, forcing her to transform back into Natalie, just as Volpina and Rena Rouge defeat Mad Dog in their battle. And now, only Hawkmoth remained. As Ladybug arrives at the Agreste mansion, it was shockingly quiet and empty. Not a single guard or locked door. She makes her way to the atelier, where Hawkmoth and Cat Noir are supposed to be waiting for her. As soon as she steps through the entrance, it seals and locks behind her. And there, she finds a horde of akumatized anti-Ladybug Society members who quickly overwhelm and overpower her as Cat Noir and Hawkmoth watch on silently. They subdue her, taking the Ladybug Miraculous, revealing her identity and delivering it to Cat Noir. However, he remains stone-faced, now in possession of both the Ladybug and Cat Miraculous. He is able to make the one thing he had been searching and fighting for a reality. Ladybug begs him to do the right thing, whereas Hawkmoth eggs him on to get them what they both desire. Adrian misses his mother deeply, but he knows that even if she were to come back, it wasn't going to fix anything. It wasn't going to fix his father's broken mind or the hearts he had corrupted. Things wouldn't suddenly go back to normal, and there was no guarantee she would want to stay with him after what he'd done anyway. But now, he did have the power to make everything go back to normal. No, not even that. He could make it better than normal. He could make it the way he wanted things to be. But was that right? Or would that make him just like his father? So what did he want? What was his greatest wish? He wanted all of this to stop. He was tired of all the sacrifices he and Ladybug had to make, the lives they were missing as a result. He was tired of seeing all the suffering and fear, all for his father's selfish, mindless goal. He wanted a normal life, a way to stop all this chaos and strife, and make sure something like this never happened again. Not to him, to Ladybug, or anyone else on the planet. I wish... He pauses, and so did everyone else in the room. For the destruction of all the miraculous. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I hate leaving a story unfinished, so although I am currently working on my Wildward series, I wanted to give closure to this one as well. After this video, I'll be doing one more Miraculous redesign that includes a continued storyline for the story's epilogue, and how everything shakes out after Adrian's wish. After that, I might do redesigns for highly requested characters just for fun, without necessarily adding on to the storyline. So if you're interested in seeing that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It really motivates me to read your comments and reactions to my videos, and it really helps push my video out onto the wider algorithm as well. Thank you for hanging out with me in the pond for a while. I hope your skin didn't get too pruny. Big shout out to my lovely pond dwellers for supporting me on Patreon. If you want to become a pond dweller and get early access to my content, join my Patreon. If you want to see more from me, then please follow me on all my social media. If you want to submit fan art, tag me on Twitter. If you want to chat with me, join my Discord server. And if you want to see more of my stories, check out my Wildward series here on YouTube, because that will make me really happy. All the links are in my description, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!